Good morning, and thank you for being here. It's been a defining season for the PGA Tour, and we enter the Tour Championship week with real momentum, both on and off the course. Our stars performed on the biggest stages. Rory wins the Players, and then wins the Masters to compete the career Grand Slam. Scottie Scheffler, World No.1, wins 5 times, including 2 majors, and the way he wins and the manner in which he goes about it are captivating. J.J. Spaun wins the U.S. Open. J.J. Spaun becomes a household name. And a wave of emerging players continues to rise, a clear sign that our pathways system is working. 11 first-time winners this season, and players like Ben Griffin, Andrew Novak, Jacob Bridgman, Chris Gotterup, and Aldrich Potgieter establishing themselves. And our 3 most recent PGA Tour U players, Luke Clanton, Gordon Sargent, and David Ford, making news by taking the accelerated path to PGA Tour membership. Further proof that talent regeneration is alive and well on the PGA Tour. In addition to the many on-course storylines, we're also seeing momentum in ratings trends, and with sponsor commitments. Linear television ratings are on the rise. Engagement on social and digital platforms continues on a positive trajectory. And on Monday, we announced a multi-year extension with RBC as a title sponsor of the RBC Canadian Open and RBC Heritage, 2 legacy events on our schedule. In total, the PGA Tour will exceed $1 billion in commercial sponsorships being announced between December of 2024 and the end of this year with 26 partners. Speaking of momentum, we have a new leader of the PGA Tour, and Brian Rolapp is off to a great start. As I've told everyone that's asked me, Brian is very bright. His experience lends itself perfectly and precisely to the future opportunity of the PGA Tour. He's competitive in a really good way, and he has a humility and a self-awareness that makes him a leader. And it's been a pleasure to watch him connect with our players, our partners, and team members. Time will demonstrate that he is exactly the right leader for the PGA Tour at this moment in time and this moment in its evolution. And that's why he already enjoys such broad support from our players, partners, and team members that have had the opportunity to spend time with him. Although he's only been in the seat for 3 weeks, in fact, I think it's 18 days, our team is already feeling the impact, and I think all of you will share that excitement as he begins to lay out his vision for the future. But before I pass it to Brian, I wanted to briefly share a few thoughts on 2 gentlemen that the world of golf has lost this year, Fred Smith and Tom Cousins. Fred and Tom have left a profound impact on the PGA Tour, the game of golf, and the communities in which they operated. Mr. Smith was the visionary of FedEx, who led every single day with tremendous character and values. Fred and his company made significant contributions to the growth and popularity of the PGA Tour, and the Tour continues to benefit from his and FedEx's influence, which will be felt for generations to come. Mr. Cousins was a man who had the very unique ability to imagine what something could become and then actually go about making it happen. Our partnership with Tom and Ann Cousins here in Atlanta, now celebrating its 30th year, has had an undeniable impact, and we look forward to honoring him at this week's tournament. We mourn the loss of these 2 great leaders and offer our continued condolences to the families. With that, on behalf of our boards of directors, it's a pleasure to turn it to PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Before I get started, I just want to make a few comments about what a privilege it has been to work with Jay during the search process, but also in this initial 3 weeks I've been on the job. He's been an incredible resource so far. Not every incoming leader has the benefit to work closely with their predecessor, and I have had that privilege, and I'm grateful for his insights and his guidance. I'm also equally grateful for the board and their guidance as well. I'm pleased to be here in Atlanta. This is my first time here. It has been an amazing, I think, the city and for our partners in putting on what I know is going to be a wonderful event where we're going to cap a wonderful regular season and crown a worthy champion this weekend. So as Jay has mentioned, I have been on the job just a little bit over 3 weeks, and I thought I would tell you a little bit how I've been spending my time. I've been spending my time with tour staff. I've been spending my time with partners. I've been spending my time with key stakeholders in the golf world. And of course, I've been spending quite a bit of time with the players themselves, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. It's been an intense onboarding process that continues, and I have quite a bit more learning to do, which I'll continue to do. But I do have some key observations I'd like to share with you before I take your questions. The first is the underlying strength and momentum of the PGA Tour is real. This is why I took the job. I had a feeling and a view that the underlying strength of the tour is strong, that its best days are ahead of it, and I still believe that. You can pick a statistic. Jay mentioned a few, whether it's rating, fan engagement, statistics, competitive numbers, whatever you want to pick. I think it denotes a very strong tour. That's a credit to the players, the partners, and everybody involved. But having said that, I think there's a tremendous amount of room to grow and to innovate, and we're going to talk about that. Next thing I would share is I'm learning golf is a complex and a unique ecosystem. But underneath this ecosystem, the sport is growing. It has a general, very solid foundation. The various stakeholders there, I've noticed as I spend time with them, all have a universal focus and view on growing the underlying game of golf, and I think that's a strength. The PGA Tour has dedicated and talented players. I promised back in June that I would meet with all the players, over 100 of them if I could. I'm just over 20. I've been spending time with them, and I've spent as little as much time as they want. And I will tell you, I've been extremely impressed. They are engaged, they're thoughtful, they're clearly direct in their feedback, and have been a tremendous help for me, and I want to thank them for their time and their commitment. I also want to mention that in my initial 3 weeks, I can tell you the PGA Tour has a strong roster of partners. No sport worth their salt is a good sport without their partners, and the PGA Tour has benefited to have quite a few. I've had dozens of introductory calls. I've started to have some strategic conversations with these partners, and they're clearly dedicated partners with energy, expertise, and other key elements that are going to be important for the tour's growth. So my key takeaway when you boil all this down is that the strength of the PGA Tour is strong, but there's much more we need to do, much more we need to change for the benefit of fans, players, and our partners. I said when I took the job that I would take it with a clean sheet of paper, and that is still true. In my fan letter on day one, I said, we're going to honor tradition, but we will not be overly bound by it. So now we're going to start turning that blank sheet of paper into action. With an idea to aggressively build on the foundation we have. So to that end, I am pleased to announce today that as one of my first acts, we're going to have the formation of the Future Competition Committee. The purpose of this committee is pretty simple. We're going to design the best professional golf competitive model in the world for the benefit of PGA Tour fans, players, and their partners. It is aimed at a holistic relook of how we compete on the tour. That is inclusive of regular season, postseason, and off-season. We're going to focus on the evolution of our competitive model and the corresponding media products and sponsorship elements and model of the entire sport. The goal is not incremental change. The goal is significant change. I'm also pleased to announce, as the chairman of this committee, Tiger Woods has agreed to serve as chairman. PGA Tour is certainly fortunate to benefit from his experience and his time and his dedication that will be important to this effort, and I'm personally grateful for Tiger for offering to take this on. There'll be additional members to the committee. There'll be 9 in total. There'll be 6 players, including Tiger. The other players will be Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Camilo Villegas, Maverick McNeely, and Keith Mitchell. There will also be 3 other business advisors. That includes Joe Gorder, who is chairman of both of our boards, John Henry, principal of Fenway Sports Group, an enterprise board member, and Theo Epstein, whose accomplishments in professional sports are well known and is also a senior advisor to Fenway Sports Group. The committee makeup was deliberate and thought through. A couple of notes on that. Clearly, it's player-led. The player input to this is extremely important. Some, including Maverick and Keith, serve on the PAC, or the Player Advisor Committee. All are deeply experienced, and all are in different places in their career. So that diversity of viewpoint will be very important. The others have deep experience in the sports world and deep experience in commercial matters. So that's the committee. There will be a few guiding principles of this committee that I will ask them to do. And these principles are key characteristics of what I think will be a successful competitive model going forward. The first one of those characteristics is competitive parity. All sports chase competitive parity. The PGA Tour has incredible competitive parity and balance among its players today. We're going to lean into this while also maintaining another key characteristic of the PGA Tour, meritocracy. Anyone on tour who's a good enough golfer should have a shot at winning, and we're going to lean into that and preserve that. The second key characteristic is scarcity, a focus on the tour's top players to compete together more often in events that feel special for fans and feel special for the players. And finally, the third principle will be simplicity. Competition should be easy to follow. The regular season and postseason should be connected in a way that builds towards a tour championship, in a way that all sports fans can understand. So those are the 3 principles. So in closing, before I take your questions, from this point forward, we're certainly focused on the future. We're excited about the future and excited about the opportunity ahead. So with that, I will take your questions. I would appreciate, as I call on you, if you could, I'm new to this, give me your name and where you're from. That would be extremely helpful. Here.
Yeah, Brian, Josh Carpenter with Sports Business Journal. You mentioned scarcity with the schedule announcement yesterday. You're going from 8 signature events to 9 signature events. Is there a number you have in mind for signature events going forward? Is it more than that? Is it fewer? What's the plan moving forward with the signature events?
Yeah, I don't think we have a particular number in mind. I think that's an important part of the work that we'll work with the committee on. I think the focus will be, as I mentioned, to create events that really matter. And how we do that, what that number is, we'll determine, but that's certainly the goal.
Brian, Doug Ferguson with the Associated Press, over by
Really,
Rachel
okay.
and Keith. We've seen how much crammed it can be from January to August to get this season, and one thing that stood out yesterday was 3 signature events between 2 majors in a 6-week period. Was there any way around that? Is there any concerns about it? And why is it important for the tour to go to Doral?
Well, again, I think on your first question, look, I think as we look at the entire competitive model, I think all those things we're going to take into account. How do you actually drive a competitive schedule? Every event matters, that is connected to a postseason, but do it in a way where the best golfers can get together and actually perform well. I think that's all an open question, and those are the things we're going to look at and with an open mind. As far as Doral, I think everyone's excited about returning to a course. We have decades of experience with that course. I think the players are excited, and so I think we're looking forward to bringing that back as a PGA Tour tradition. Yeah, here.
So,
In the conversations with players, anything stand out in particular maybe that surprised you?
Yeah, a lot has stood out. One thing that I think maybe surprised me, but maybe shouldn't have, outside that they're energetic and focused and smart and have really strong views on how to improve the tour, with all of these changes that we talk about and some of these ideas that the committee will look like, we've started having these conversations with players to get their viewpoint. One thing they have all leaned on is the importance of the meritocracy in the sport. The fact that whatever I get, I should earn. And I think that's unique among sports and a huge strength, where whatever we do, wherever we end up on a competitive model, let's just make sure that I can earn my way into it. And if I earn my way into it, I deserve to be there. And I'm not sure that should have surprised me, but it did. And I thought that's an amazing attribute and a strength of the tour.
Brody Miller with The Athletic. Obviously, this committee hasn't made any decisions on anything yet, but with a holistic relook, are there things that you can pinpoint that maybe already that made you want to reevaluate, that made you want to create this, that aren't quite working?
Yeah, I think it's, these won't be new to anybody who follows the sport. And I think those three things are really focused on what fans look for in a sport that they love. I honestly believe that we need to better serve golf fans, but I also believe the PGA Tour can better serve sports fans. And in order to do that, I think some of these characteristics need to come into play. Everybody wants competitive parity. Everybody wants to know, wants to go into an event not knowing who's going to win. My old job, I think we obsessed about these things. I think we could, I think other than the NFL, I think golf is the closest thing that I've seen that's sort of competitive parity. And in my old world, we could pick 5 teams to think we're going to win the Super Bowl, and we'd probably both be wrong. I think golf has similar characteristics. So I think that's a strength that we're going to lean into. But also the events need to matter. And you need to understand as a fan what the stakes are. If this person wins, if this person loses, if this person finishes here in the leaderboard, what does that mean? How does that tie to the postseason? I think every sport who's successful has that, and I think we're going to chase that. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Dave Shedlowski with Golf Digest. You mentioned the new commission and the Tigers heading up, and notable that 2 SSG-related individuals are part of it. Wondering now if you've had a chance at all to dive into exactly how SSG is good. You're going to be using that $1.5 billion investment from SSG. If you could share any details of that.
Yeah, I think I have lots of ideas. None I'm actually prepared to share today. But I will say it's one of the things that attracted me to this opportunity, where the SSG investment is a strategic investment. And not only does it provide, I think, necessary capital as we work through this competitive model and then improve the commercial model, I also think it also brings learnings from other sports, which I think is beneficial, and expertise, perspectives that I think will be helpful to grow the PGA Tour. It's one reason why I asked Theo Epstein to participate in this. He clearly has a track record in other sports, including baseball, and has wrestled with these same competitive issues, and I think we can learn from his experience. I will certainly bring experience from my work at the National Football League in similar matters. And so I think outside perspective is always a very good thing, as long as it's applied in the right way. So I think SSG has brought that and has been helpful. Yes, sir.
Jay Busby, Yahoo Sports, referencing the NFL. Roger Goodell has said that his competition is not baseball or basketball, but Google and Apple. Who do you see, what do you see as the PGA Tour's competition?
I think I won't speak for Roger, but I think his larger point, which I agree with, is anybody who's in the sports business, their general competition is for the mind share of sports fans and for their time. And to do that in a complicated world that is increasingly disrupted by technology, where you have a million things to do with your time, a million alternatives. I also think that is one reason why sports continues to be so valuable. There's very few things left in this country that can aggregate millions and millions of people doing one thing in a communal experience. I think you'll see that this weekend when we crown a champion. So I think that's the perspective you bring, is you need to sort of compete for people's attention and time, and you need to bring them something worthy of that time that is actually being pulled in numerous directions. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Bob Herrig with Sports Illustrated.
Hi, Bob.
I know it's been a short tenure for you so far, but have you had a chance at all to meet with anybody from the Public Investment Fund? Either way, can you give us any idea where you see that going or what you would like to see happen? And perhaps related, what are your thoughts on the DP World Tour Alliance and and where that stands?
Yeah, I have not spoken to anyone from the public investment fund. I've been here for 3 weeks, so my focus has obviously been on the tour and focusing on the tour and in learning and starting to develop a bit of a vision for the future. Part of those conversations have been with our partners at the DP World Tour. Spent some time with Guy last week. I think we have an investment in the DP World Tour. I think golf is a global game. We all know that. We have quite a bit of European players on the tour. So I think it's an important partnership that we want to figure out how to grow. I think conversations with them and how they might fit in a new competitive model will certainly be part of this committee's work. So we'll continue to work on that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dylan DeChair, Golf Magazine. I'm curious, sort of related to Bob's question, how high a priority do you feel like finding common ground with Live Golf is, or given your perceived strength of the tour, are you guys focusing inwards?
Look, I think my primary focus is going to be on strengthening the tour. And blank sheet of paper means blank sheet of paper. Whatever does that, I'll pursue aggressively. So that's how I view it. Yes, sir.
Hi, Scott Michaud, Global Golf Post and the Irish Examiner. Obviously, the schedule's set for 2026 now, but with this committee, do you expect there might be some kind of shakeup in the model by 2027, or could we see changes as soon as next year's playoffs?
I think as the timing, I don't think I'm going to commit to a specific time. I think the right answer to that is we will take as much time as to get it right, at least the initial timeout, but we're going to aggressively move. So I would like to do and put in the right competitive model as soon as we can. But, you know, we want to do it right. So however long it takes, we'll do while moving aggressively. Yes, sir.
George McNeely with New York Golf Magazine and Golf One Media.
Hi, George.
Given your background, could you speak to the nuance of the establishment of a CEO role and the tour abandoning the commissioner role form of government, which has been around sports for more than 100 years and you came from?
Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't overly focus on titles. Honestly, I think in other sports, commissioner's been a traditional term that has been used in other sports. Other sports have evolved from trade associations to full-scale commercial businesses. PGA Tour is no different. I think what's more important is they're all vested with chief executives, whatever you call them, and that seems to work, and I think that's what the PGA Tour is adopting here. Yes, sir.
Back to me, Brian.
Yeah.
You mentioned competitive parity a couple times, and I don't think I'm quite sure what you mean by it, and I guess the question would be, in what ways do you see it lacking now, the parity side?
Lacking? I don't think it's lacking, but let me define what I mean by that. What I mean by competitive parity is that how close and competitive the competition is. So I'll give you an example. In my observations in this sport, the difference between the 5th ranked player and the 35th is razor thin. On any given weekend, any of these guys can win a golf tournament. I don't think you can say that on any other sport. Maybe the NFL on any given Sunday. That's where the expression comes from. But I think that's an incredibly difficult thing to do in sports. Is that when you roll out competitors on any given competition, you're not sure who's going to win. Now Scottie is doing some pretty special things. Maybe he's starting to emerge as an exception to that rule. But other than that, I think when you look top to bottom of the PGA Tour, what separates these competitors is not that big. And that is an amazing characteristic.
In your old job, did you like it when the Patriots kept winning?
As I said in my old job, and I'll say it in this job, I didn't cheer for teams, I cheered for television ratings. So whoever's behind, that's who I'll cheer for. How's that? Yes, ma'am.
Kathy Bissell with Pro Golf Now. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how to balance the issue between all of the tournaments who aren't signature events and the tournaments who are becoming signature events. It's difficult to figure out exactly how to spread the wealth, or, it's interesting that you're adding one, but it takes away from the players at the very top. They don't have to go to those other events, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think in a way you're making my point. I think when we talk about simplicity and scarcity, we need to work on that. We have competitive parity, and I think those are the things we're going to work on with the committee to design the best model that creates the most compelling events possible, but also preserves the meritocracy of everybody can earn their way into it. But I think the things you're pointing out are a lot of the symptoms of, I think, some of the things we need to address, and that's what we're going to do. Yes.
Any particularly jarring changes coming over from the NFL to now looking under the hood at the PGA Tour where you're like, whoa, this is going to take a second to adjust to?
Jarring changes?
Just something that's so different about this business compared to that business.
It's a lot hotter in Ponte Vedra than it is in Manhattan this time of year. No, I don't think it's any jarring changes. I think a lot of what I learned at the NFL can be applied here. And part of it, look, the sports business is not that complicated. You get the product right. You get the right partners. Your fans will reward you with their time. And because they're telling you it's good and they want more of it. And then the commercial and the business part will take care of itself. And it's not, and then you just have to constantly innovate. I think if there's anything I learned at the NFL, it was that. We did not sit still, change rules every March. Change the kickoff rule, and that's what I mean by honoring tradition but not being bound by it. I think that level of innovation is what we're going to do here, and I think that's one lesson I've learned. I will say, in talking with all the stakeholders, everyone seems excited about that, and I think realizes that given the strong foundation we have, if we apply some of that, we think we can make it better. So that's been exciting. And by the way, chief among them, the players. I haven't heard anything other than excitement to do that. So we're going to try. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just wondering if, I know it's been a short time for you, but any thoughts on the governing bodies and the golf ball rollback and where the tour might eventually land on that issue?
No, I have not spent a lot of time on that issue. I couldn't give you an informed view 3 weeks in. Give me another few weeks, maybe we'll have a view on that. Yeah. Yes.
Again, pointing out, Brian, you've only been on the job for 3 weeks, but certainly you've been paying attention to this product for longer than that, I would think. So specific to the broadcast element of the PGA Tour product, what's your opinion of the PGA Tour product on television or streaming to this point?
I have lots of views. I think a lot I'm prepared to share publicly, but I had started those conversations with some of our media partners. I think your media partners are such an important component to the sport. We're fortunate to have good ones who are vested in the sport, who care about it. But like any sport, PGA Tour is no different. The vast majority of people who experience it do through media, through television, and increasingly streaming. Getting that part of the equation right, as far as reach and distribution, as far as production value, as far as having the right partners who do that right, balancing it all with commercialization, which I know has been a hot topic in this sport, it is in all sports, I think is extremely important. One reason why I decided to form this committee and announce it before we've had a meeting was we want input from our media partners. We want input from our other partners. We want input from fans. And we want as much information, invested interest in this process as possible. You don't do that at the end of the process. You do that at the beginning of the process. So I imagine this to be collaborative and iterative, but an important stakeholder in that will be our media partners. I've invited them in. I've had conversations with all of them and said, we're going to want you as part of this process, and they're very excited about it. So we're going to address that.
Without getting into any specifics, do you foresee changes being robust or more like a around the fringe, around the edge of the broadcast going forward?
I think we'll see. What I will say as a general matter, as I mentioned before, this isn't about incremental change. This is about as significant and aggressive change as we can get for the good. So we'll be as aggressive as we can. Yes, sir.
Brian Todd Lewis with the Golf Channel. Deciding the FedEx Cup champion has gone through a lot of iterations since 2007. This format with a winner-take-all here essentially is this year. Should fans expect this to be the format moving forward, or is this a transitional year?
I don't think fans should expect anything we're doing now to exist in perpetuity in general. I think that gets back to my earlier comments that if we're doing our job, we're going to constantly innovate and get better. So we're going to do that. I think the changes, just being the newest person to this, I think the changes have been positive. I think, you know, the change in starting strokes will make for a really compelling competition this weekend. I think the competitive tournaments we've had the past few weeks have been great. We've essentially had a tournament within a tournament where you're watching, you know, two competitions at once, which I thought was extremely compelling. I think the television numbers showed that. That fans will react to good, solid competition. But it'll be, as I mentioned, connecting the regular season and the postseason in a competitive model we'll continue to work on.
Adam Shupak, Golf Week and USA Today. Can you give a sense of how soon this competitions committee will meet?
Soon. We haven't set a specific date. We want to do some pre-work, so we're having an informed discussion. This was just formed in the last few weeks, but we're going to get to work as soon as possible.
And why was this the first thing you wanted to announce?
I think it's important to set a vision and a tone for what we want to accomplish, which is significant change. I think it'll take time, as I mentioned before. And as I also mentioned before, I want it to be iterative and collaborative with all of the stakeholders of the PGA Tour. You know, that's how I think good innovation and change happens, is when you get input, you look at an issue holistically from different perspectives. And I think that's important to do that on the outset. And so if we had done a bunch of work and then announced it and gave the committee a baked cake, you're not getting a great result. I wanted the opposite. So I think that's one reason why. And then it'll focus us. It'll focus us on the future, and it'll focus us on the things that are most important.
Do you envision there being someone with the title of commissioner in the future after Jay?
I don't know. That's honestly low on my list. Again, I'm not overly concerned about titles. I'm more concerned about getting the right outcome. Yes, sir.
Earlier you mentioned how with the NFL, every year they look at rules changes, and sometimes they do make some significant tweaks or changes. Golf is pretty unique in that, you know, the rules are set by a governing body, the USGA here, obviously, so the tour is always played by that. Doesn't mean they have to, though. I mean, and at times over the years, some players have advocated for the tour making its own rules. I realize this is very much in the weeds, but is it something you might look at?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think it falls into the category of let's honor tradition but not be overly bound by it. I think we need to have a more honest conversation about what's best for the tour and what we need to do to make it more compelling for the players and the fans. That's always going to be my lens first and foremost. Any other questions? You have them all day. There's not a cap, is there?
I'm just curious, what's the most surprising thing so far in your short tenure that you've come across, or a conversation that, I don't know, gave you pause or surprised you?
Nothing that has given me pause. I think, and again, I don't want to use a surprise. I think pleasantly surprised, I think, is, as I mentioned before, has been the focus and the dedication of the players in their views, all up and down the ranking. And they're thoughtful, they're engaged, they have informed views. I think this model at the PGA Tour is unique in sports, and I think in a good way, where it's one of the only major sports I can think of where the players are the shareholders, and they're extremely vested in it, and they're vested in the future of the tour. That creates a sense of alignment and focus that I think is unique in sports. And I think if harnessed the right way, can be an amazing opportunity and advantage for what we want to accomplish. So that's been, and you know, just Tiger volunteering to chair this and to work hard as well as the other player directors shows you that. And I think that's an incredibly powerful and important thing. So that's been I'm not sure it's been a surprise. It's one of the reasons I took the job, but I think it's been reinforced in a good way. Yeah.
Hello, Brian. Ewan Murray from The Guardian. Do you accept the premise that what golf fans want primarily is the best players in the world playing together more often?
Yeah, I think yeah, golf fans want to see the best competition possible in the sport that they love, in a competitive model that makes sense.
Sorry, that's a different thing. I think it's been surveyed already. They want to see the best players together on a more regular basis. Should that not be a priority for you?
Are you asking a live question? Is that what you're doing?
Well, essentially, yes.
Okay, well, ask a live question.
No, I asked.
Okay. I think, look, I think I'm going to focus on what I can control. I would offer to you that the best collection of golfers in the world are on the PGA Tour. I think there's a bunch of metrics that demonstrate that, from rankings to viewership to whatever you want to pick. And I'm going to lean into that and strengthen that. I will also say that to the extent we can do anything that's going to further strengthen the PGA Tour, we'll do that. And I'm interested in exploring whatever strengthens the PGA Tour.
You mentioned obviously wanting some scarcity, and you've created a 9th signature event for next year. While you probably won't get any pushback from the 30 guys who are here, do you expect some maybe pushback from other guys who are not qualified for those events as one less opportunity for them in the future?
I mean, I think we'll see. I think that's one reason why we're forming the committee, to take that input, look at it. Next, the schedule is set. We are a calendar, but I think it'll provide additional data points to look at and talk about. And again, to put into this process up front where let's look at everything and let's look at all the input we can. So I think we'll know more as that plays out.
One of the challenges that you have is that unlike in the NFL owns the Super Bowl, the PGA Tour doesn't own the majors. Would you be in favor of creating an event that the Tour owned that was Ryder Cup style format of PGA Tour versus Live?
Listen, I don't want to answer hypotheticals. What I will say is what I said before. I'm interested in any idea that strengthens the PGA Tour. So any idea that comes that fits within our competitive model and our objectives for the benefit of our players and fans, I'm interested in it.
Brian, come Sunday in February, you have a choice between the final round of the Waste Management Phoenix Open or the Super Bowl pregame show. What are you tuned into?
I'm going with Waste Management. I've seen enough Super Bowl pregame shows in my life. I know what they all say. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the PGA Tour. For more, click here. To subscribe, click here.